Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Motorman Dan. I don't know if you've heard, but there are new patch notes. Came out about an hour ago from recording this video. Um, they're taking effect this Monday for the game. So, about that ultimate tier list, it's going to have to be put on hold until we look at everything being done here. Okay. So the ones that stand out to me, let's go over the bug fixes. The visual stuff, it is what it is. I don't think I've ever had issues with any of these, or even noticed them. So maybe the Ox Satchel's a little bit weird. That looked a little bit clunky, but as far as that's concerned, yeah, that is what it is. Let's go over the bug fixes first. Apparently the saw blades getting stuck in enemies was a bug. So this is probably the best way to handle the saw blades being overpowered. If you don't fix the damage, you can still build a nice little corridor or kill box area for the saw blades to be effective. They still do shred things, but if they don't get stuck, that means they're going to probably bounce around a lot more, affecting more things, allowing for more combos with bleed, possibly. I'm not sure. Arcane Dragon's projectiles no longer stop by boom barrels. I had streamed this live, and a developer was there watching it, and I had mentioned that this was weird. Yeah, that's probably a good thing overall. I don't know if it's going to start exploding the barrels or if it's going to just pass through them, but we'll find out. But yeah, this is a good thing for the Arcane Dragon. They actually made Arcane Dragon better. We'll see later on. Yeah, the go breaks I've never seen. The co-op with flyers spawning in War Mage, I never noticed. The deep freeze with increased range will now show the increased range in Narrow's hallways. I never noticed. The impact damage while falling, I did think it was a little bit more than it's supposed to be, but maybe this is a little bit less. I don't know. But I think they were taking more damage than they were supposed to take, from what I noticed. But this probably isn't going to affect too many people. All right, scramble constant thing, that's fine. Scramble mode, scramble. These are good, I guess. Snow cannon now drops target when out of range. Now that's pretty interesting because we did testing on the snow cannon and we found the range of like somewhere between like 6 and 9 squares, I think it is, which is like 3 full floor tiles, like three tar tiles basically is when it can like start shooting. But I've seen it shoot really, really far. So this might hurt the snow cannon a little bit. One of the reasons you bring it is because it has that ability to shoot really, really far and follow enemies to beyond where they're supposed to be shooting at. But I don't know. We'll see. If they made it a little bit faster in its movement, then I think that would be good. Because right now it has a hard time tracking on stuff as well. Okay, let's talk about the Acid Geyser. The Acid Geyser now applies status effect for the correct amount of time. This was an issue with the second upgrade. If you got the increased duration, it would take it from 6 seconds down to 3 seconds for the melt. So if they fix it, that means they may have just switched those numbers around where it's 3 seconds by default, 6 seconds with the upgrade. So the Acid Geyser, if that's the case, then the Acid Geyser may have been hurt from what you would normally use. The Arabic language, that's a thing. Fix issue where player could resell traps rapidly. Now this is the one that the Spiffing Brit had shown off on his channel, I'm assuming is what this is talking about. And yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's not necessary to play co-op, but I have seen people do it and it's a little bit boring. Fix issues where hosted games would be removed from games list if levels were changed. This must be the reason people are having a hard time finding games. I wonder if you change the game yourself and you're waiting for somebody to join, if you don't have to rehost it, like if you don't know you have to rehost it and it's showing like you don't have to. So this is probably really good, especially for co-op. This is probably the biggest change they've made so far. All right, fixed issue where barricades placed on player spawn points in endless scenarios 3 and 6 cause players to get stuck. I'd also like to see Aqueducts see that, because I know there's a place in Aqueducts where that can happen. I don't know if they're stuck indefinitely, but yeah, I have come across this myself, so that's good. The blade staff, looks like they fixed it. So if you have the normal, you don't need the Overlord to get the upgrades. That's good. Blade staff's probably the best melee weapon there is. The Arcane Dragon no longer bounces multiple times for client. That was a co-op bug. Broadsword text uses in front instead of in front. Just a typo, I guess. Swinging mace, loading screen damage. Okay, this is, yeah, some of the spelling stuff it looks like. And horizontal inversion label missing. One of the things I don't see, it's probably not, I don't know, it might be a bug fix, I'm not sure. One of the things I don't see, I'd like to see is the grid squares. In Stadia, you have the grid squares, you can turn on the options, and it's not the case yet. But it's just something to add, that would be nice. Or maybe even a visual thing, I'm not sure. Okay, let's talk about the balance changes. Balance changes, Bank of Archers price increased. That's fine. You don't need to use them. Bowling Boulder, they really want people to use the Bowling Boulder. I think the problem is that it doesn't trigger on its own. So they should make it like the Beehive, where it triggers or you can shoot it. So you can shoot it from a range, and then it'll roll down and do the damage, or it'll trigger when something is close enough for it to trigger. I think that would make it worthwhile. Otherwise, and then you could stack them, of course. So you'd shoot the ones on top, but the ones on bottom would trigger by themselves. But that's still not the thing. So they're probably really good to use if the speed and damage was doubled. Like, it already did a lot of damage. Speed increased. I see the balance changes, and I see nothing but things in my wiki or in the wiki are now incorrect. So, yeah, we're going to have to go back through and change a bunch of stuff. Damage is reduced. On Stadia, it was 20 damage per second and went up to 25. I'm curious as if they put it back down to 20 and kept the price the same. Ceiling laser fire damage upgrade reduced. It doesn't seem to do any more damage if it's fire, but maybe it does, I guess. Ceiling laser collision area of lasers reduced. This is a good one. It's going to kind of hurt sappers, maybe. Or it's going to hurt playing against sappers a little bit, especially if you're not using TARs. So we'll see what happens with this one. I don't really know what the collision area is, but I think an armored ogre can get affected by 2 beams at once, and this may affect it to where it's only affected by 1 beam at a time. Guardian Archer's damage and range increased. That's good. This is what they needed. As a matter of fact, people were saying that it needed to be the level upgrades as for damage and range, not for health. Which I can see that, but if you're not babysitting them, then there's also no way to resurrect them. So if you're playing with them on Rift Lord, you might have a hard time. But damage and range increase is good. Tar Trap level upgrades now slow amount reduced. We do have currently the slow percentages from the game files. I'm curious to see what they did with them. If they knocked everything down by 10% or how much they actually knocked this down. Tar is still probably, it's the only slow in the game, so Tar is, good because it's the only trap that does what the Tar does. So you're still probably going to bring it, but yeah, I'm curious to see how much they reduced it by. Auto ballista cooldown and reset delay reduced. The auto ballista isn't good because it can't target things specifically, and it also only shoots one thing at a time. It is good for the reason that it does quite a bit of damage and that it's pretty consistent. But as far as its overall DPS, it's pretty bad. The cooldown and the reset delay reduced, that's probably going to help it quite a bit. I just wish that the targeting for Endless still worked, and then you could bring Auto Ballista to take care of the big guys that start getting through your kill blocks on wave 80 or whatever. Arcane Dragon cost reduced. They really want people to use the Arcane Dragon more a little bit, and I think they've seen a lot of negative feedback about it, to include maybe myself. Lifetime increase to accommodate bouncing better. I just wish that if it bounced, it would reset the timer. That's what I would like to see. That way, you're still getting the 8 seconds if you're shooting down a straight corridor, and you're not getting anything extra. But I don't know. Maybe there's not a corridor where more than 8 seconds would matter at all. Anyways, I'm not sure. But that is nice. That's a good change. It's kind of unfortunate to shoot down a hallway, have it bounce back, and then it disappears as soon as it bounces to the other side, because then it's almost a waste. But if it gets halfway down the other side, then you're just well, now I'm kind of in between a rock and a hard place, and whether or not I want it to make it all the way down there and not utilize all of the time, or if I want it to bounce back and not utilize all the distance. So that's a good change. And the cost reduction, yeah, it's so expensive. Yeah, with this, I probably am gonna put Arcane Dragon better, but I have it on my tier list currently is somewhere around the bottom tier, or above, just slightly above. Double barricades cost reduced. I'm very surprised that they did this. I don't know if they needed to reduce it any more than what it is. Because right now you can play the first level of the first wave of Coliseum, push, you have enough double barricades to push everything to the wall, and place traps if you're building around the rift. Which to me is like just right. So I'm very surprised that they lowered the cost of double barricades. Maybe people were complaining about them blowing up and having to replace them. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm very surprised on that one. Confusion Flower, I used to use a lot. I stopped using it as much. It's a little hard to put in certain places, but you can definitely use it. It is good. But the fire speed increased and the projectile explodes faster. This is good. I've seen enemies, mobs pass by the pod that the flower shoots out, and they're just not affected because they just run past it. Confusion Flower projectile explodes faster, which is good. Again, enemies have been making it through it, even though it does fire at an enemy. It can miss, and then they walk through it, and then they don't get affected by it. Decoy cost reduced. That's not gonna make them worth it. Flame Bracer primary damage and the AoE radius increased. It's actually, I think the Flame Bracer is one of, if not the highest damaging fire item in the game, other than I guess the firewalls, or yeah, I think the fire arrow walls are probably the other thing that does a lot of damage for fire damage. But the Flame Bracer it does a lot of damage already, so that's really good. And the AoE radius increase is also really good. I don't know if I would bring them yet, but that's good. The primary mana cost reduced. That needed to happen. What happened was in Stadia, every hero I believe had 200 health, 200 mana, and then they changed the heroes up with their health and mana pools, and nobody has 200 of either. So when they did that, the Flame Bracer got hurt because it cost so much mana. What you could do on Stadia is 2 right mouse buttons and a left mouse button. That's what you could do. You can combo that. But on Steam, you were not able to do that with any of the heroes. 2 right mouse buttons, 1 left mouse button kind of thing. And so with this mana cost reduction, you might be able to pull that off. So that's good. Broadsword secondary damage increased. That's also good. It was lacking in the damage. It felt like it was good for the shock value. But yeah, the secondary damage needed to be increased here. And the unique heal amount increased. Now that's interesting because it heals 10 per hit right now. So I'm wondering if they're going to knock it up to 15. Then it might out heal the blade staff. We'll see. Now we got crossbow stun AoE radius increased and the stun projectile lifetime increased. This is really good. Both of these are actually really good. The stun projectile should probably be infinite. And the radius absolutely needed to be increased. This is why you'd bring the stun staff instead for the area of effect. Just because the stun is like, you hit an ogre and he's next to a couple orcs, and the orcs don't get affected by it at all if you like stun the head of the ogre. So this is good. This needed to happen. Stone staff stone duration decreased. Probably my least favorite chain because I use a stone staff and it's kind of it's what I require. No, that's okay. The freeze from the ice amulet is it's longer than the stone staff. The problem is when enemies get into the range and you freeze, more enemies are going to come into the range, and it costs so much mana. So even though the stone duration is decreased, I think that's totally fine. It's still going to be better than the ice amulet overall, just because of the amount of mana that it doesn't cost. All right, the wind belt primary and secondary range increase. This is good. Right now, you kind of have to be really close to them in order to push them back. The secondary is still a little bit finicky. It's probably still going to be a little finicky because if your back is up to a wall, if your camera's not center or whatever, then the primary won't work and the secondary is hard to land. But that's in the right direction. Lava pour duration increased. Yeah, that's also really interesting. I never thought the lava pots were not good enough. So I don't really have any thoughts on the lava pots in particular, but I never thought they weren't good enough. I never thought they needed improvement, but maybe people did. I don't know. Swinging mace cooldown reduced. Yeah, they definitely need to buff the swinging mace somehow, and cooldown reduce is probably one of those ways. If it can swing a lot faster, I've already talked about it before, but the new swinging mace on Steam no longer affects everything in the area. It only affects things with the ball and spike. Whenever the ball and spike actually like goes into that area, so it's more realistic. But overall, it makes it worse. So if the cooldown is reduced, at least by a couple of seconds, maybe even just a second, it's definitely going to help it. So this is a step in the right direction. We got Elven Short Swords. Attack speed upgrade increased. Good, because it's so unnoticeable. And the secondary charge time reduced. So unnoticeable. Let me tell you, both of these things, they're just... The upgrades, like, increased it from just, like, frames after seconds of attacking. I think it was, like, 10 full attacks of getting none of the speed upgrades to all of the speed upgrades. It only reduced it by frames. So, yeah, this is much needed. Elven Short Swords need a lot of work. I think they need a little bit of range increase as well, but that's maybe for another video. 29 on a box cooldown is reduced. That's good. That's going to make the weekly challenge for it easier. Mega Flip Trap cooldown reduced. Mega Flip Trap unique reduced. Cooldown upgrade cooldown reduced. Okay. Mega Flip Trap trigger delay reduced. This is good. A lot of times orcs can walk from one side to the other and they'll walk over it before it triggers. So this is good. Snowblower trigger delay, cooldown, and freeze duration all reduced. I'd like to see the freeze duration not touched, but the delay and cooldown, at least the delay, the trigger delay, is my main issue with the snowblower. But I guess if they reduce that, then they need to reduce freeze as well. So yeah, these are the patch notes. This is what's going on with it. I don't know if it says that, let's see, the exact date time of deployment is still to be determined, but it's going in effect next week at some point. There may be changes or additions to the list before the patch is deployed. We'll be reading a ton of feedback, although we haven't been able to respond to a lot of folks. We wanted to get these patch notes out there, so you know we've been working hard to address all concerns. Yeah, I think this is a lot. And I think this is definitely good. I know a lot of people have been asking about, you know, have they come out with anything? Have they said anything? And I think this list, as long as all of these are accurate and all of this is actually in place, I think it's a good list. Yeah, it's probably around what I would expect, you know, bug fixes and stuff and balance changes at this time to do. So, yeah, that's good. As always, if you are encouraging or encountering a bug that isn't addressed in this list, please post about it in technical support forum so we can collect as much info on this as possible. And he says, thank you. I don't know what the technical support forum is, but in the description of this video, there should be a link to this Discord page for Orcs Must Die 3, in which case there is a bug report section, so you can report bugs. And I believe Space Cats, who took over Juice's job, will be monitoring this as well and annotating down any of the bugs that they see, I think. So, yeah. But I'm not sure what they are mentioning here as far as technical support forums. Maybe on Robot's main page, homepage, I don't know. Anyways, so I hope this has been informative to you. If you don't have Steam or you haven't looked at the patch notes yet, you know, we just kind of covered over some of them. Let me know what you think about them. Changes you like, changes you don't like. If you think they did the right thing with the saw blades to not nerf them necessarily into oblivion, but still, you know, I'm guessing this is probably a bug. They didn't want them to get stuck in enemies. I mean, they are really overpowered, and that may be the reason why they feel overpowered is because of that. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll be streaming a little bit later today, and I hope to see you guys there.